Did you know that some of the most iconic images of Africa were carefully staged to create a false narrative? For centuries, the story of Africa has been told and distorted through visuals. But who controlled these images? And what stories were left untold? Today, we're diving into the visual history of Africa, from ancient rock art to modern digital archives, to uncover the power of images in shaping and reshaping our understanding of the continent. Before the camera arrived, Africa already had a rich visual language. Think about the ancient rock art scattered across the continent, whispering stories of early civilizations. Or the exquisite court art of kingdoms like Benin, where bronze sculptures immortalized kings and queens. Textiles, too, served as powerful visual statements, communicating status, identity, and belief. These weren't just pretty pictures, they were complex systems of communication, vital for societies where written records were scarce. One of the oldest visual records we have dates back to 1591, showing how early printed images of Africa were already circulating in Europe. But the arrival of photography in the 19th century changed everything. Suddenly, there was a seemingly objective way to document life in Africa. Or so it seemed. Colonial powers quickly realized the power of photography. Images became tools for classifying populations, mapping territories, and justifying their rule. But these images were far from neutral. Many were staged, selectively framed, or captioned inaccurately to reinforce stereotypes of tribal Africa and colonial paternalism. Think about those ethnographic portraits, meticulously documenting types of Africans, as if identities were fixed and unchanging. Or the images of exotic landscapes, designed to portray Africa as a timeless, primitive land ripe for exploitation. These images weren't just documenting reality, they were actively constructing it. But Africans weren't passive subjects in this visual game. As early as the mid-19th century, African Americans were using visual culture to fight for freedom and equality in the United States. Figures like Henry Box Brown and William Wells Brown used moving panoramas and engravings to depict the horrors of slavery and celebrate Black life. This visual activism crossed the Atlantic, influencing anti-colonial movements in Africa. Posters, newspapers, and cartoons became powerful tools for spreading nationalist ideas and challenging colonial rule. Images of martyrs, flags, and rallies helped create a shared visual language of resistance. The Black Arts movement in the 1960s and 70s further cemented this visual revolution, developing a consciously Black aesthetic that rejected Western art norms. Today, a new generation of African artists is reclaiming the colonial archive. They are using these images, not to preserve the past, but to re-narrate it. By exposing the hidden biases, deconstructing the stereotypes, and amplifying the voices that were silenced, they are rewriting history, visually. These artists are not just challenging colonial narratives, they are also exploring the complexities of modern African identity. National flags, monuments, and memorials serve as visual reminders of the past, but also as symbols of hope for the future. Digital archives are playing a crucial role in this process. By digitizing and making accessible colonial photographs, ethnographic albums, and historical newspapers, they are democratizing access to the past. But these archives are not without their own controversies. Who owns these images? Who gets to interpret them? And how do we ensure that the voices of Africans are finally heard? These are critical questions that we must grapple with as we navigate this complex visual landscape. The fight for control of the visual narrative is a fight for control of history itself. By understanding the power of images, we can begin to decolonize our minds and build a more just and equitable future. The visual story of Africa is still being written, and it's a story that deserves to be told and seen in all its complexity and beauty.